so that's all right. So let's try and put questions at the end if they come up. All right, so really quickly, top level, there are many ways that actually work to integrate near real time and Hadoop. With high-value messages, which I'll just define a little bit more clearly later, the requirement is end-to-end fault tolerance, meaning you can't drop them. Integration options, they're often constrained by the available expertise and your pre-existing processing flows. What you've already got in place is more constraining than the available technologies. This comes up again and again and again. You've got consumers that are using what you've already got. Even if you've got the coolest thing ever, if you roll it out and it disrupts what they're already used to, what they're already using, you're done. And don't make islands, right? So if as you're rolling new stuff out, you end up having something which is no longer appropriately serviced, it no longer fits into the rest of your system, that is going to kill you later. That is going to be a maintenance nightmare. So if you can avoid it, don't do it. Back-end migrations, time-consuming and disruptive. You all know this, right? This is a good way to absolutely kill an engineering team is to do multiple back-end migrations under time pressure. Flexibility, documentation, active user community, these are way more important than optimal fit in most cases. In what we've run into, being able to talk to a bunch of people who've done similar things, trying to figure out, hey, how is that similar to what I'm trying to do, that is way, way more important than a little bit of extra speed. People end up mattering more than the tools, right? They really do. If you've got really good engineers and they're happy and they're engaged and they can figure stuff out, you can come up with a solution that'll actually fit, that'll actually work, that'll actually meet your constraints. But the best tools in the world, the best stack in the world, if you don't have reasonable people, you're going to get screwed. So with that in mind, we'll cut through the rest of this. So KIXEYE, I don't know how many of you know it. KIXEYE is a free-to-play social gaming company. We focus on strategy, interactive play. So you're going out there, you directly interact with people that you know or people that you interact with on chat. You are attacking them real time, you're interacting real time, you see stuff happening. This is not just clicking stuff, right? This is not the Zynga model of I've clicked a rutabaga. That's no fun, right? Not only is it no fun, but it doesn't really make money in the long run because people get sick of it, right? That's not a game, that's just a scam, right? I mean, seriously. Yeah.
How do you guys make money?
Well, we make money on speed-ups, and I'll get to that in a little bit here. Actually, let me move on, and I'll answer that question directly. But just briefly, we're on Facebook. We have our own platform now. If you hate Facebook and you want to play the games anyway, we just released an iOS title in limited release, so we're entering mobile. We'll be entering mobile in a much bigger way quite shortly. Founded in 2007, we've grown quite quickly. We're 500 more employees, over 500 employees now. So our games. Backyard Monsters was the breakout in 2010. It's a real-time strategy game. You basically are laying out a base, you're interacting with some stuff around it. The key was, so it was built in a Flash client, LAMP backend, right? You accessed it through Facebook. The key was that revenue, to answer your question, right, was from speed-ups at that point. There were a few items, but that's not really where the money came from. It comes from people being frustrated. And the only reason they're frustrated is because they like your game. If you've got a good game and they want it to go faster, they want to play more, they'll pay for the speed up. Yeah. And that's a better model anyway, right?
What does a speed up mean? Is that
Oh, so the idea with speed up is that let's say you're building something and a monster comes in and it smashes your fence. And you want to do something else and it's going to take a few minutes, you got to wait for your fence to get rebuilt. So in that respect, it has something in common with the Zynga games, where there are those timers, right, where it takes time for your rutabaga to grow.
So you get an advantage over someone else by paying for it? Is that what
absolutely.
Okay.
You absolutely. now
so it's like real
just check. You bet. That's it. And the key is that players tend to cluster to a certain extent by the amount that they're spending. So people who are spending about the same amount tend to want to play against one another because it's more competitive and it's more fun, right? So that actually works itself out for the most part. Battle Pirates, War Commander, Vega Conflict. These are all, these are new games that came out. They refine the idea, right? They really target the male 18 to 40 demographic. They really do.
I'm laughing at Monetized Revenge.
That's it. Well, that's it, right? PvP strategy, persistent world, synchronous real-time interactions, monetized revenge, right? If your friend Bob came and blew up your base while you were asleep, and you look at it and you say, hey, I would love to go attack Bob right now, but you know what? I'm going to have to wait 2 hours, or I can pay the cost of a cup of coffee and go get him right now. Right? That's where the money comes from. So, some numbers. So far, this is working. 100 million in revenue in 2012, 60 million total players, 100 million daily active users. These are people who come in, show up, play every day. Our retention times are crazy. They're measured in months, not weeks or days. Event data, as you might expect, right, is growing pretty fast. 140 million log events a day, 110 gigabytes of raw data a day. We went from a terabyte a month in Q1 to more than 3 terabytes a month today. And this is just raw data, raw event data coming in. And we don't want to throw any of it away. So, analytics, engineering, story time. So way back in the beginning, right, it was one guy in a lamp stack. That was analytics engineering. It was, trying to do counts. It was trying to support analytics, mostly just keeping track of daily statistics. It was really limited in most of the things that you want for anything beyond basic counts. It also had log processing flows, which were impossible to maintain. These things were strung together. These are like, 1,500 line PHP scripts. They were terrifying. Chaos. So, over 2012, we emerged, right? So the team grew from 3 to 12. Our storage requirements grew much faster than that, much faster than 4x. We vertically scaled MySQL until we hit a wall. I'm sure some of you have run into that, right? So we tried Mongo initially. For what we initially wanted, it was actually pretty good. We had some initial successes with it and so on. But we didn't know how to use it particularly well. We didn't know the right questions to ask of 10gen. 10gen was really helpful, but if we don't know the right questions to ask, and in the end, the needs that we had really ended up being MapReduce based. And the fact that they really had a single-threaded MapReduce in those versions was killing us. Yeah. So it was not something that we could really work with. Those evil back-end migrations I was talking about, right? So we did migrate the archival storage over to Hadoop, right? It's great for horizontal scalability. It's really, really good. You all know that. You store everything forever. It's safe. It's cheap. It's simple. Right? The MapReduce performance on batch jobs is fantastic. And Hive is a godsend because our analysts understand SQL-like queries. Right? That's the truth, is that they cannot wrap their head around MapReduce to save their life. Pig is better, but it's not that much better. Hive is really where it's at for these folks. And a good integration with Hive was really what made that solution feasible. So, oh, yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I should also mention, I mean, one of the big things in this free-to-play space for gaming is that it's driven by a subset of players which tend to spend a lot more than other people. Whales. Right? So, there's the whale.
It's like Vegas.
Indeed. We're hunting whales, really. That's what it is. So today, right, everything's in Hadoop, right? All the events that come in get archived there. We write them as time-sliced RC files into HDFS. It's really straightforward. I don't mention it here, but we're using Chuckwa to manage that log migration.
RC files is columnar storage format. What are RC files?
So RC file is just a structure. It's basically, you can think of it as a serialization.
What's
right.
it, like, what?
Raw columnar storage.
Real time?
Raw column.
Yeah.
Okay, like, is it a standalone thing, or is it affiliated with some other project, or what's the story?
So RC file is basically a kind of a format that Hive can use. So instead of storing rows, you can break the data into columns.
I see. So it's like you want to do ad hoc writing of stuff, and you want to have a format for it so other things can read it later. That's
Yes, so basically Hive has some enhancements where it can use RC files for faster data access.
right.
Yeah.
It also allows some compression. So there are some aspects of it that are similar to a columnar store. But I mean, basically, yeah, think of it as a serialization.
It's binary.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so again, Hive, Pig, and MapReduce queries are supported. Key. This infrastructure was, satisfied a number of needs, and so immediately there was a blossoming of other projects that were built on top of this, right? And this creates a lot of dependencies, right? So if we want to make any changes later, we have to make sure that we certainly have a way to satisfy those dependencies, and more than that, we have to make a good argument as to why they should put up with the disruption if we do change anything.
Was it Scribe that was writing the things into?
No, it's Chakwa.
Okay.
So Chakwa, just as a brief aside, interesting project, really cool, a lot of potential, small user base. The key guys got hired by IBM, and they basically dropped off the map in terms of most documentation and user groups and other things like that. We have been able to talk to them directly. They're cool guys, but
They're not looking for a job right now, so you're screwed.
No, exactly. Actually, we tried to even get them to do consulting, but the key is that they're so wound up in IBM right now because IBM wanted Chakwa, right? But it means that the rest of us don't have decent documentation, and it's basically it's difficult. We'll probably shift to Flume, right? I mean, it's at least you know what it is, right? So MySQL's still in play, right? We're growing. Our relational needs are still possible to be met by MySQL once we moved the archival storage out of it, right? So once we weren't talking about storing the archival data in it, we were no longer anywhere near the wall, right? So now update and place reference data, aggregates, the metadata store for Hive, all that stuff can comfortably live in a reasonable MySQL instance. Now, that doesn't mean we're entirely happy about it, but it does work, and it's already in place. It also supports a bunch of other tools that sit on top of it that are happy talking to it and not so much to the Hadoop stack. So we're shifting to HBase. We are moving those reference data and aggregates over. Player-focused event histories are something that lend themselves to HBase instead of a time-chunked stream. And eventually we'll think about moving the time slice